Hi, welcome to part 1 of my review featuring Legends of Avallen, the core rulebook. This is a role-playing game with a very interesting proposition. What would happen if you took the Roman Britain setting and gave it a huge fantasy twist? You have Celtic mythology intertwining with a solid historical root. However, do not think that this is the most accurate, historically speaking or mythologically speaking, the most accurate role-playing game in that regard. There is a strong theme of fantasy, of the otherworldly, of magic taken beyond proportion, as explained or portrayed in folklore. And before we begin talking about the quality, it may be of interest to note that you do not play this role-playing game with dice, you play it with normal playing cards. Now let's talk about the quality. When you purchase Legends of Avallen, you obtain a digital character sheet, and you also get digital tools to play online, to facilitate online play. When it comes to the book itself, everything is well written and explained. It's fully bookmarked and hyperlinked, so it's going to be very easy for you to make your way through the entire document. The graphic design is beautiful, very colorful. All of the illustrations are quite evocative of the sort of fantasy history and mythology that they want to represent. The document has bookmarks, it's well organized, it has an index, so it's going to be very easy for you to navigate your way through the entire PDF. The graphic design and layout is quite beautiful, very colorful, so the quality is great overall. Now let's talk about the contents. First, we have an introduction in the form of fiction. You have a short story detailing the sort of adventures that you can experience in this role-playing game. I have, I would say, mixed feelings when it comes to this fiction. There are some things that I like and some things that I dislike. The things that I like are the mood, the way that the scene is set, the stage is prepared for the sort of deeds that you can accomplish within this role-playing game. It's a setting where songs and legends have a lot of truth behind them, and those who dare to risk it all may end up immortalized in these songs and legends. I think it is quite respectful of Celtic mythology in general, and the historical basis of Celtic warriors and adventurers as well. You see a strong emphasis on warrior women such as Boudica or Skeitha, the teacher of Cuchulainn, perhaps the greatest Celtic warrior in existence, at least when it comes to my opinion. It's fairly obvious and pleasant that the other world, that invisible world where the Sidhe and other beings of legend and myth and folklore, that world is closer to our world if you know where to look for the portals to it. This is represented in this fantasy fiction. Now, when it comes to the things that I do not like, I think that the main characters in the story are too stereotypical. You have the typical character that is strong but not very smart. You have another character that feels almost like a filler character, just there to serve as some sort of glue between the other two characters. And then you have the other character that is the main character that cannot do anything wrong. Even a mistake leads the party towards their goal. So I did not like those stereotypes, and I think those are the only elements that kept me from fully enjoying this fiction. Now, after that, we have an introduction, a proper introduction to the world and how to play. So, Legends of Avallen is inspired by Celtic Britain. Avalon itself is a mystical island home to the Valak, a divided Iron Age people who have been in constant conflict. These clans are scattered across Avallen's diverse biomes, worshipping gods that embody the lands, enchanted forests hosting mischievous fae and druidic rituals, rolling meadows scattered with earthen fortresses and cattle raiding Valak queens, mountains shrouded in mist, hiding ancient sanctuaries and terrifying beasts, and so many more. Then there is the Otherworld, a place of legends that lies parallel to Avallen, the domain of their gods, the Everones. It serves as the final resting place for the spirits of the dead, but also as the birthplace of creatures of myth, such as the dreaded Theaedra, and the tricksy Fae. Though the Balik believe their worthy ancestors are reborn as Fae, with the greatest of them becoming the noble Tul with Teg, they are still cautious and sometimes hostile in their dealings with them. Magic is also bountiful on the island, running through it like a roaring river. It is powerful, flexible, and vicious. The average person would do well to avoid it most of their life. Avallen is not all nature, magic, and mysticism though. A new kind of people have settled on their shores, the Iraxian Empire, whose concrete buildings, urban living, taxes, and other cultural oddities made landfall on Avallen from the mainland to the east a generation ago. As the Balik always have been, their response was divided. Some welcomed the Empire, with their technology and power, onto their land, while other clans put aside ancient rivalries to stand up against the invaders. The arrival of a new culture also means a new way of looking at Avallen's magic and gods. The Iraxians consider the incantations of the mystics far too unpredictable and dangerous. They much prefer the logical spells of the mage, those that shape reality to their whim. And while the Empire exiled their own gods back to the mainland, there are a number of Iraxians in Avallen willing to worship the Everones, for strategic reasons, of course. Worship in this setting means protection, favor, and influence over the other world. In the midst of these tumultuous times, your tale is just beginning. You are an ordinary townsperson looking for a chance at adventure. From this humble origin, you will quest out into Avallen with your companions, growing both in character and in power as you discover its mysteries. Now, how do you play Legends of Avallen? This is a role-playing game about exploring a mythical world and forging a legacy within it. You need a few things to play. This rulebook, of course, character sheets, pencils, a deck of normal or regular poker cards, and 3 or more players. You as a player portray a humble townsperson that you create. Together, you and your companions quest in Avallen as a band of aspiring heroes, weaving a tale of intrigue, heroism, and adventure. However, one player in your group must volunteer to be unlike the others. This player does not have a single character of their own, but instead plays as the rest of the world and prepares the game. This unique role is, of course, called the Game Master. So, Legends of Avallen proceeds in 3 steps. The Game Master describes a scene to the group. The players discuss the scene and then describe what action they will take as their characters. The Game Master then considers those actions and describes how the world responds to the actions of the player characters. These 3 steps represent one round of play and form the structure of the conversation between the players and the Game Master that you repeat through the game. Most of your actions happen automatically, with you succeeding on them, as long as you are somewhat competent. But those actions that are quite serious, very risky, or have some sort of effect that has greater influence upon the game world and the characters within it, they require a check. So when you take a risky or important action, one that could succeed but is made challenging by another character or the environment itself, you make a check to determine how well you do by drawing cards from a deck of regular playing cards. A deck can be shared between players, or each player can use their own deck. Each deck needs all cards from each suit, as well as 2 jokers. You designate one joker as the red joker and the other one as the black joker. Each suit of the deck represents an important attribute of your character that can be tested when making a check. Red suits are physical attributes, while black suits are mental attributes. Hearts represent vigor, diamonds represent agility, spades represent spirit, and clubs represent wit. Vigor and agility works somewhat in harmony. This is the physical category. Now when it comes to the mental category, which involves spirit and wit, these are not harmonious with vigor and agility. So some tests that involve vigor could be surpassed or accomplished by using agility instead, and vice versa. And the same could be said of spirit and wit. Some tests or checks that require wit could be handled via spirit. Therefore, you will be hoping to draw your suit when making a check and avoiding your attribute's opposite if you can. So for example, drawing width when making a bigger check will surely see you fail. Your character will have a numbered rank in each of these attributes, ranging from -1 to +5, with higher ranks representing increasing prowess. You choose your ranks when you create your character, and will get to improve them over time by gaining levels through your quests. Now let's talk about making a check. When you make a check, you reveal the top card of the deck to determine the outcome of your action. You follow certain steps. First, the Game Master decides the attribute being checked and sets the value of the check difficulty that you must beat. The player looks for advantages to help the check, while the Game Master looks for disadvantages. Advantages and disadvantages cancel each other out. The player reveals one card from the deck, then reveals extra cards for each advantage or disadvantage that player has left. You use the best card if you have advantage and the worst card if you are disadvantaged. The player adds his or her character card rank to the attribute and compare the total with the check difficulty to see if it's a success or a failure. Lastly, you can exert yourself or your equipment to change failures into successes. Let's talk about each of these steps separately. When it comes to checking difficulty, the Game Master decides which of the 4 attributes is being tested and sets the value of the check difficulty. The player character must beat this difficulty to succeed. The check difficulty is the base difficulty of the check and is determined either by the environment you are in or the attribute rank of the character you are acting against. When it comes to advantages and disadvantages, whenever you make a check, you must describe how you use your equipment and aspects of the environment to advantage you. Your allies may also use their turn to advantage you by describing how they assist you. Each unique and significant advantage you have grants an extra card for your deck. However, your opposition and the Game Master will also be sure to point out things that disadvantage you. Advantages and disadvantages cancel each other out, one for one. As you make the check, turn over an additional card for each remaining advantage or disadvantage that you have. You use your best card from among them if you have advantage, and the worst one if you have disadvantage. Note that you can only gain advantages from things that assist you, not things that are necessary for the action. When it comes to card rank, when you make a check, you reveal one or more cards from the top of the deck and add your attribute rank to the card's rank to find your total. It is this random draw that makes your risky actions risky. A card's rank depends on its suit, and if it is a court card. Its color determines if its rank adds to or subtracts from your attribute rank. Jacks, queens, kings, and aces are court cards worth 2 ranks. Regular cards are worth 1 rank. You add the card's rank to your attribute if it matches your attribute's color. You add double if it matches your suit. You subtract the card's rank if it doesn't match your color. Subtract double if it's your opposite suit. For example, agility is the opposite of spirit, and vigor is the opposite of wit. Jokers are wild court cards that add or subtract 4 ranks as if they have a matching or opposite suit, depending on their color. Revealed cards are then placed in a discard pile for that deck. Whenever a joker or the last card from the deck is discarded, all cards in that discard pile are shuffled back into the deck. Now, concerning success and failure, if the total rank of your card plus attribute beats the check difficulty, your action succeeds. If not, it fails. If you succeed using a court card, or if you manage to succeed using a card of the opposite color to your attribute, you earn a critical success. If you fail using a court card, you earn a critical failure. So to clarify things, a critical success is when you succeed with a court card or a card of the opposite color. You achieve your intent and you earn an edge. A success is when your total rank is more than the check difficulty. You achieve your intent. A failure is when your total rank is equal to or less than the check difficulty. You do not achieve your intent but earn an edge. A critical failure is when you fail with a court card. You do not achieve your intent and your opposition gains an edge. An edge is when you fail or critically succeed at a check. An edge is a shift of momentum in your favor represented by a face down card you take from the top of the deck and keep but do not look at it. You can only keep one edge at a time, but you can give extra edges that you earn to allies that do not have edges. You may use your edge to advantage yourself with any other check you make or any check made against you. To do so, declare you are using the edge before the check is made and use the face down card as if it were another advantage. It cancels with disadvantages just the same as is revealed for the check if it is still around. Whenever you use your turn to assist an ally, you may also give your edge to them as an extra advantage for their check. Now when it comes to double up, some actions in the rules list an outcome in square brackets, such as make 1 move or deal 6 damage. When you critically succeed with such an action, you may double the outcome listed in this way in place of earning an edge. Following the examples, you could make 2 moves and deal 12 damage instead of earning an edge because it makes 1 move or deals 6 damage. When it comes to exert, when you are on the verge of failure, you can choose to push yourself or your equipment to the limit in order to succeed. When you fail a check, you can ignore that failure and treat it as a success by exerting yourself or any equipment you use to make the check. You can even exert once to treat a critical failure as a failure and exert twice to treat it as a success. Conversely, when a character succeeds in an action against you that you are aware of, you can exert yourself or your equipment to ignore the result of their success and treat it as a failure. You can even exert once to treat a critical success as a success, and exert twice to treat it as a failure. Note that you are ignoring the success against you. This means the character acting against you does not suffer any repercussion as if they failed, does not earn an edge for a failure, and cannot exert themselves to change the outcome. One exception is that you cannot exert at all for checks made during a parley. Exerting yourself or your equipment during such social situations is synonymous to losing face and won't help you one bit. And what happens when your character becomes exerted? You mark the exerted condition on your character sheet, and being exerted just prevents you from exerting yourself again until you take a rest. When you exert your equipment, it becomes broken. You mark the broken box next to it in your character sheet. Being broken means that it cannot be used at all until it is repaired. You can only exert equipment that was involved with the action. Now, concerning opposing checks, normally when the environment endangers you, you must make a risky check to resist it. However, when a character acts against you and you resist them, that character makes a check, and you are the opposition for it. Their check difficulty will be your rank in the attribute being checked. The Game Master declares advantages for the check made by a non-player character, which includes the non-human creatures played by the Game Master, while you can declare the disadvantages and use your edge if you have it. The Game Master draws cards to make the check. In this way, non-player characters are treated the same as a player character, except the Game Master controls them. Now let's talk about supply. Though it is not relevant to making regular checks, supply is an important feature in Legends of Avalon. Supply is a catch-all resource that represents the food, equipment, and provisions that you carry to survive in the world. You need supply to use some profession abilities, treat exertion with short rests, and stave off hunger with long rests. Supply is always treated as an ambiguous consumable resource. However, if you need a specific piece of adventuring equipment, you can expend one supply to add it to your inventory, such as a rope, a piece of chalk, a tinderbox, or a torch. You will lose supply and have to carry the item around with you, so do this with caution. You can restock your supply by buying more in settlements. You can also find, trade for, or steal supply while adventuring, as well as share it amongst your party. And if you have a scavenger, they can make supply by scrapping other items. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about character creation. As you can see, the rules are pretty easy to understand. I think it's going to be very exciting to see what sorts of cards you are going to be drawing, as you are trained to use the environment, your tools, your natural capabilities to your advantage to match those drawn cards to the suit. I also like how edges represent teamwork within the party, and how you can exert your character to carry out those deeds of legend. Because even though You will begin as a normal, pretty common individual. You will rise up the ranks as long as you are intelligent, strong, and lucky, and you may end up becoming a gladiator, a druid, or perhaps even a fate touched. I also like the balance between what is real historically and mythologically speaking with the fantastical elements. Even though it's all a fantasy, it feels quite real, and there's even a pronunciation guide, so if you have some difficulty pronouncing those Celtic words, the information to pronounce them correctly is here. Thank you for watching this part of the review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you and see you later.